Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. We have an amazing show for everybody today. The very first show, full day of Joe Biden's presidency. So what do we have, Krystal?
Yes, it is an exciting new era. We've got some great guests on today. We've got Jelani on to talk about a major warning shot from China and what that means. We've got Reverend Barber on. Actually, it's very exciting to have him this morning. He's going to be delivering the homily at the inaugural prayer breakfast. So get to speak with him on an important day. And we do want to start with the inauguration yesterday and what we can expect.
Some surreal scenes there, Krystal, from Andrews Air Force Base as Trump left Washington, maybe for the very last time. You know, it's you think about it. There are a lot of other presidents, they come and go for ceremonial purposes. I'm just not sure Trump will ever set foot in that White House again. But who knows? He's going to maybe run in 2024, as we'll talk about later in the show. He departed to YMCA. It's not a joke. Let's take a listen.
You are amazing people. This is a great, great country. It is my greatest honor and privilege to have been your president. I will always fight for you. I will be watching, I will be listening, and I will tell you that the future of this country has never been better. I wish the new administration great luck and great success.
So there it is, Krystal. It ends not with a bang, but with YMCA. And just a note, Trump's last official act as presidency, this is not a joke, was pardoning Judge Jeanine's husband for tax fraud. It happened moments before Biden took office and when he arrived at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, which just really ties a bow on the end of this presidency and leaves us where we're at.
Perfect capstone to a remarkable 4 years there, pardoning Judge Jeanine's husband. And of course, I think the second to the last act that he took was to rescind the executive order, barring any of his aides from lobbying for 5 years. So all of that talk about like cleaning up the swamp and corruption, whatever, clearly just for show. Now that he's on his way out, wants to make sure that all of the various cronies who he surrounded himself with over the years can immediately cash in. Not that I think that there's going to be all that lucrative market out there for them, truth be told, ultimately, but he's doing what he can to make sure that they can line their pockets. The funny thing about that speech is like, it actually was a very kind of normal speech.
Yeah.
He said the things that you would want him to say, and that, we could have avoided a lot of pain and heartache if he had been saying for a few months now, rather than engaging in all of this ridiculous and ludicrous stop the steal nonsense, which of course he will also continue in the post-presidency talking about and ginning up this idea that the election was stolen from him and was fraudulent, but he just can't go out in like a normal way. You have to add on that layer of surreal or else it wouldn't be a true Trumpian event. Obviously broke with years and years and years of tradition by not attending the inauguration of Joe Biden. I think everyone involved was actually kind of glad that he wasn't going to attend the inauguration of Joe Biden. Biden was happy about it. Of course, Trump is kind of a coward and super lame. And so he didn't want to be there, just can't handle that with his ego. The Republicans who were involved, the Republican senators who were involved were glad that he wasn't there so that the day could truly just be about the new administration. He did also pass, and this is another longstanding tradition, he did apparently write a letter to Joe Biden that Biden described as being very generous. But, I reflect a little bit on like, how are we going to look at these past 4 years? What are they going to be? There's so much that happened. Mm-hmm. Like every day was drinking from a fire hose. What will ultimately be the things that really stand out? And I think one that will clearly be a gigantic takeaway is this last act with encouraging the Capitol rioters and that, inciting that and rejecting the results of the election. Anything else that he did, good, bad, or indifferent, I think is really going to be overshadowed by those last few weeks that he held the office.
No question. I mean, to the extent that Trump had a legacy, which is, iffy at best, he pissed all over it. Went to stop the steal. He had the lowest approval rating, basically since W in order to leave the Oval. He actually would have left around hovering in the high 40s or the mid 40s if he had just left it at that, and easily could have been in a better position to run in 2024. I actually think he might have won if he hadn't, or he could at least put himself in a position to run credibly against Biden in 2024 or Kamala Harris. Who knows? We'll see. But now I just don't see it. No way in terms of reaching, cross coalition and more. And look, here's the thing about Biden. His superpower, to the extent that there is one, is just like a normal guy. And we saw very much of that in his inaugural address. Like, Biden is so old, he actually does remember a time when there was some real bipartisanship in America, which is troubling in a little bit in terms of the age. But it really came through, I thought, in his inaugural address. I'm not going to be like Chris Wallace and say it was the best one I've heard since John Kennedy, which is interesting. But let's take a listen to a little bit of it.
To all those who supported our campaign, I'm humbled by the faith you've placed in us. To all those who did not support us, let me say this. Hear me out as we move forward. Take a measure of me and my heart. And if you still disagree, so be it. That's democracy. That's America. The right to dissent peaceably within the guardrails of our republic is perhaps this nation's greatest strength. Yet hear me clearly. Disagreement must not lead to disunion. And I pledge this to you. I will be a president for all Americans. All Americans.
Yeah, Krystal, look, it's just talk, but talk matters. Imagine if Trump had said anything like that. I think he might have said it in his inaugural address, and after that, it was gone. And especially during coronavirus, I was watching, the press briefing yesterday, and I was already like falling asleep because it was so boring, and it's like a return to the Obama administration, but over and over again. And then Biden, in his first appearance in the Oval Office, it was the same thing. He's like, we're going to get this vaccine out. The first 100 days, we're going to get the schools reopened. Just a basic level of technocratic competence, which they're bringing here. And as you and I said, Trump has set the bar so low that Chris Wallace and others are like, this is the best inaugural address since John F. Kennedy. Just for like boilerplate language that a 22-year-old speechwriter in D.C. would write is considered like the best thing. But, that's essentially where Trump left us. And I do think that's why Biden won the election, which is crazy.
I think that's absolutely right. Look, you and I both know if Biden had actually campaigned on like concrete material promises, he could have won by a lot more versus just like barely squeaking by. But yeah, the speech was entirely conventional. It was entirely like unmemorable. It was the sort of chewed over boilerplate unity bipartisan pablum that you could like you said, a 22-year-old speechwriter could vomit out in like 30 minutes time. Mm-hmm. But I think for a lot of people, yeah, you're right. After everything being so crazy and you never know what this guy is going to do, and Jesus Christ, what is today going to bring? The fact that there was just this like wash of normalcy over it and like, oh, this is like the normal standard issue stuff that we're supposed to hear from our elected leaders. Yeah, I think a lot of people probably responded to that. And I think a lot of people responded to that during Joe Biden's campaign as well. He got to work immediately on the executive orders that we've been talking about here. 17 of them issued yesterday. By and large, it's a rollback of the things that Trump has been doing. We've got them all listed for you here. 100-day masking challenge, which just means on federal government property, you must wear a mask. Stops the withdrawal from the World Health Organization, creates a COVID response coordinator, extends the nationwide moratorium on evictions and foreclosures until at least March 31. I hope that gets extended even further. Extends the pause on student loan payments, also really important. We've got a continued list here, if we can throw the next one. Rejoins Paris Climate Accord, stops the Keystone XL pipeline, rescinds Trump's really super bizarre 1776 commission that was actually seems to have been plagiarized, prevents workplace discrimination on basis of sexual orientation or gender identity, undoes some of the things that Trump did with regards to the census, fortifies DACA, ends the Muslim ban, And the last 5 here, if we can throw those up on the screen, more on Trump's immigration, ends the construction of the border wall, and requires executive branch appointees to sign an ethics pledge, barring them from acting in personal interests. That seems like that should be like standard operating procedure. We'll see if that actually has any teeth. I kind of doubt it. And directs the OMB director to develop recommendations to modernize regulatory review and undoes Trump's regulatory approval process. So, putting back in place some of the sort of safeguards around the regulation. So again, most of this, some of it is, extending the COVID relief provisions that need to be extended. And a lot of it is just rolling back the clock here. There's very little in the way of really super progressive priorities. A lot has been floated about what Biden could do with executive order student loan debt being one of the primary pieces. Progressives obviously happy about canceling the Keystone XL pipeline, but beyond that, not taking a lot of affirmative progressive steps here with these initial executive actions. And I'm going to talk some about too. Now they're even walking back their timeline over a COVID economic relief package, saying, we'll get to it like maybe in March. We'll be able to get around to it. It's like, wait, what? Yeah. What are you doing here? You have the easiest layup in history. You just need to get the vaccine out and deliver some cash to people, and you'll be the most popular president ever. They seem to be working on trying to screw that up right now.
It's amazing. And that's why I saw that news. I can't wait to talk about it. I'm like, what the hell are you going to do for the first 2 months? Seriously, what is the president doing? I'm looking at his schedule right now. I've got it here in front of me. He's going to a prayer breakfast, then he's getting the presidential daily brief. Then he's going to deliver remarks on COVID-19. Okay, good. But, just delivering remarks is fine. And then vaccine plan, all that's good. But the relief on the other side is the thing that I would want to see more. And then the same thing, he's going to receive a briefing from members of his COVID-19 thing. And then there's going to be a 4 p.m. press conference with the press briefing, by Jen Psaki. But you look at all of this and you're saying, why is he not in Congress right now? I mean, if you think back to, and Biden has compared himself, he just put a portrait of FDR, a huge, awesome portrait, in the Oval Office. Do you know what FDR was doing on his first day's presidency? He was signing major executive orders. There was already legislation on the floor of the U.S. Senate and of the House of Representatives when FDR was president. They passed major transformative legislation within the first month, multiple pieces. He had beachhead teams that had written legislation and ready to go. Where is that? What is happening? Krystal, I just saw a report this morning that Democrats were, quote, caught flat-footed by the fact that they won in Georgia, and they don't even really have a plan. They're trying to figure out their power sharing agreement. I'm like, what are you doing? You have to do something. This country is in massive crisis. That's literally why you people were elected, and you're still figuring out budget reconciliation and all this other stuff should have been doing for 2 months. And yeah. I'm astounded, honestly. And once again, if anybody could screw it up, apparently it's these people, because I don't know why Kamala Harris isn't on the Senate floor presiding over there, and they're not passing $2,000 check legislation literally right now. They shouldn't even let him go to sleep. Just pass it. He would be monumentally popular.
100%. 100%. They're the dog that caught the car. Now they're like, oh, holy crap, we actually have to govern, and we don't have the excuse of Mitch McConnell in the Senate. Oh my God, what do we do now? I guess we'll figure it out sometime by March, maybe, if we get around to it. I truly was blown away by that piece of news that they didn't have legislation ready to go immediately. I shouldn't be surprised, but somehow I continue to find myself shocked and chagrined at the creative ways in which they managed to screw things up ultimately. Yeah. But there was a bright spot on the day that, of course, we had to bring to you. None other than the one and only Senator Bernard Sanders bringing his top fashion game to the inauguration. Everybody was sharing. So he's sitting there in his one coat, right? The coat from the meme, the one coat that he wears. The mittens, which are apparently, actually, they were from a constituent in Vermont, a teacher in Vermont, made these mittens out of their repurposed sweaters and recycled plastic bottles for the fleece. They're amazing. And he's just sitting there being Bernard Sanders and, encapsulating the mood of, I think, many in America. So, of course, many memes were made. But
yeah, I thought it was hilarious.
Lots of beautiful, fashionable people there yesterday, but still Bernie managed to steal the show with his one coat and his amazing mittens.
With his one coat from like Kohl's, the Kohl's clearance bin or something.
It's actually a nice coat. Remember, there's this scandal over like, oh, Bernie has an expensive coat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he has one coat, and you're going after him for this?
All right, well, all right. We can leave it at that.
All right, well, I'm more rising where you at to this.